Maybe it's a knight protecting his lady, or a warrior rescuing the princess. Perhaps it's a prince risking kingdom and crown for the love of a woman, or a cowboy guarding the stagecoach, carrying the woman he can't live without. Whatever the plot, Once Upon a Historical Romance interviews authors who tell stories of love throughout history, travel through time, and fall in love over and over again with Once Upon a Historical Romance.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Once Upon a Historical Romance. I am your host, Parker J. Cole. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going all the way to the Philippines. We're talking to debut author, Paulia Belgado. She is the author of the hot off the press release, May the Best Duke Win. I'm going to tell you right now, I loved this story. It was excellent. It was a type of book that you just ran and jumped right into. It was very well developed, well detailed. It had a wonderful storyline, wonderful characters, so wonderful that the Library Journal even said in this debut novel, Belgado uses a feminist lens on the historical romance genre. Her sumptuous writing brings drama and a little bit of spice to the forced marriage and single forever tropes that readers know and love. I think that was just a wonderful way to describe May the Best Duke Win. And one thing about this story is that even if you want a modern spin on some of these tropes, she still had that timelessness of love bringing forever and bringing the couple back together. It was just such a wonderful book. Very excited to see where Paulia's career with Harlequin and other books and other publishers is going to bring her to. So I'm really, really excited to showcase her today. Can't wait to talk to her. My book is called The Duke's Defiant Cinderella, and it releases on September 27th at harlequin.com, millsandboons.com, amazon.com, or wherever books are sold. Very excited. Mine takes place in pre-revolution France, so it's a lot of decadence, a lot of good things happening in that story. Hope it is well received, because if I get just one hint of what Paulia has in her book, I'll be so happy. So yeah, very excited for Paulia. I know she's working on some more books in the series. Can't wait. So let's go ahead and talk to her today. Paulia, how you doing today?
Hey, Parker, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me and for that glowing recommendation review.
Well, it's nothing but the truth, Paulia. It is nothing but the truth, because I really enjoyed your story. And I got to tell our listeners today, so right now it's about 8:30 in the morning for me, and it's about 8:30 at night for Paulia. So we have 12 hours difference here. And we're just having a good time because I'm just now kind of waking up and she's about to go to sleep, you know. But we're having a great time talking. Before we record, I had a chance to talk to her and just go into her life story. And so let me tell you a little bit about her on this here. I'm going to read her bio. Born and raised in the Philippines, Paulia Belgado has worn many hats over the years, from freelance writer to PR assistant, flyer distributor, singer, nanny, and farm worker. Now she's proud to add a romance author to that list. After decades of dreaming of seeing her name on the shelves next to her favorite romance author, she finally found the courage and time, thanks 2020, to write her first book. Paulia lives in Malaysia with her husband, Jason, Jesse the Poodle, and an embarrassing amount of pens and stationery art supplies. Paulia, so glad you are here to just talk to us about your book, May the Best Duke Win, about your writing, you know, and all that good stuff in there. So before I do that, I would love to hear how you got the call. Now, I know your story is a bit different from maybe someone else's that we've had on this story, but it doesn't matter, because we always want to give writers who are looking to write, to let them know that not everyone's pathway to publishing is the same. So go ahead, tell us what that was like.
So actually, it all started in 2020. I saw this event for Harlequin, where you can get to pitch an editor. I remember the date because it was December 2, 2020, and that's important. It was like you go on Facebook and you pitch your idea to the editor. And so I did that. I had like this idea. So no book yet, no book yet. And sure enough, one of the editors, Carly, she liked my idea and said, "Oh, can you submit a synopsis in 3 chapters?" So I did that. And then I got a reply and she liked the 3 chapters. Like, could you just make these changes and then submit the whole thing? And sure enough, July 2021, I sent it off, right? And then forgot about it. No, I'm just joking. I was obsessively checking my email every day, of course. but eventually I did. When I didn't get anything after a few weeks, I forgot about it. And then on December 2021, I was finally able to leave and travel. So I went back to the US because my husband's from there and we hadn't seen his family in a long time. I was walking in Central Park with my friends and I see this email, it's from Bryony. And she was like, "Hi, Paulia, can we schedule a call with you tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I tell my friends about it. I'm like, "What if this is just something else?" They're like, "They're not going to send you an email to tell you suck."
Yeah. Okay.
Can I say that? Can I say that?
You can totally say that. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So they're not going to send you an email. They totally want your book. And I'm like, okay, I guess. So we set up a time. And then sure enough, that's it. Exactly a year after I sent in my pitch, I got the call.
And that's just lovely, Paulia. That is absolutely lovely. And I know you were so excited. When I got the call, I couldn't breathe. I just started.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny because I was talking to Carly about cooking. And I still remember Carly to this day looking like, what in the world? I just got totally distracted. And when you're a talker and chatter like me, you can go from one topic to the other. There is no segue, just follow along. We're on a yellow brick road, but yeah. And I'm so glad to hear that. And this book is just so fresh. It's a very refreshing take. And you do it in such a way that from the beginning to end, you're just engrossed into this story about Kate and Sebastian. And so let's go ahead and peel back the veil here. Let's talk about Kate real quick. How would you describe Kate? One of the things that you said is that you were a farm worker. And if we were all on a farm and you were going to evaluate Kate and Sebastian, how would Kate react on the farm? What would she be doing?
I think she would be the first person to look for something to do. Like, what's wrong? How can I fix it? So she's very determined and focused, I would say.
Now, how would Sebastian play into all that too?
I think he would want to know what are the problems and how can he fix it. I think he would be that way. He wants to help for sure.
So basically they're both fixer-uppers. They want to fix something, they want to repair it, they want to do something, but she's more so about the smaller things. I can fix this part here, and he's about the big picture. How can we make the whole operation work together? And that does come out in their personalities here. But what happened for Kate, she has this horrible father, by the way. And I told Paulia when I was writing my thoughts back about her book, I said, I hate her dad. Right? I really do hate her dad. But you wonder, is there any kind of redemption for her dad? Because he treats her like she's an asset, a physical asset that he can use. And why does he do that? And how is that? That was very prevalent back in the day, that women were assets. They were chattel. They were property to be bought and sold for the betterment of the family. So let's talk about that real quick.
Okay. Well, I imagine, back then, you have, as a male, you have all this power and you do think that everything around you works, everything that you want happens. And his background is, he's a self-made man. I was actually, one of the reasons why I wrote this book, why I wrote this series, I was really fascinated about all those robber barons from that era, right? So you have somebody who came from nothing and, made his way up, work and to become this somebody, this, the equivalent of our billionaires now. So that has to take a lot of ruthlessness. And I actually was thinking about all these people, what made them tick, what made them be this way.
I think you make an interesting point, because one of the things that is a point of conflict here is that her father may be rich, but he can't get into the nobility over here, you know? And that is actually a point of contention for him. He wants the businesses from people with nobility behind them. He wants to marry his daughter to whoever he wants to marry. He doesn't care who it is. Like literally, he does not care who it is, as long as he has a title, because that's how he can get into society. And I thought that was really unique, you know, because here, and this is more of an American thing, because she's an heiress from here in America who goes over to England. And, you know, over the pond, you know, for Americans and the UK people, it's always been like this weird, you know, love-hate relationship between us, you know. And I like how you use that. Here he is, has all this money. However, he can't get into the society he wants to get into, you know.
He couldn't buy his way in, right?
Yeah, because they're upper crust, you know, they're the upper crust society. That's not going to happen. You can't, what are you? You know, I thought about Titanic. I thought about Titanic, you know, with Rose and Leonardo DiCaprio and Billy Zane. I forgot what their names are in the movie, but I thought about that and how she had to make a choice between, you know, her own freedom and the family honor, right? And so, yeah, I love that aspect of it. So the thing about Sebastian, though, as we move over to him for a minute, Sebastian, he is very brooding and he's very rigid. And you wonder, why is he so rigid? So what's going on with him?
Well, you know, he has trauma, basically. He has PTSD from what happened to him in his childhood. You know, he was, his dad doted on him. He thought the world of him. Like, this is somebody I look up to. And then all of a sudden, you know, in one moment, in one night, that disappears. Like, and not only is this man that he looked up to turns out to be like a real, you know, terrible person, but then he's the one who finds his mom in the state where he's you know, he's left her, and that's it.
It's almost like he's almost an orphan. He's almost an orphan because his dad is horrible, and then his mom is affected by that horribleness, you know?
And then she becomes a recluse.
Yeah, and he has to pick up the pieces. And I think you did a good job with that, because there's nothing like finding out that the person who you thought was this great person isn't. And it is PTSD. For himself, he adored his dad. And we won't tell you what happened, but he adored his dad. His dad was just whatever he could be, particularly. And then to find out that who I thought you wasn't. And I could just see the modern context of that. You know, like even now we get so surprised we find out that someone that we thought who they wasn't that person.
Definitely.
You know? So I'm glad that you put that in there. But I'm glad you came in from like the male perspective, because men look up to men too. You know, they want to be able to have people they can go to and talk to, you know, what is manhood? What is this? All this other kind of thing, you know? And so he, on the other hand, is just devastated by this. And so he actually stops being the person who he is. But then he meets Kate. And Kate, she's a breath of fresh air. But even though, and what makes it really funny, there's almost like a historical rom-com to this too, because when Kate's come over, she doesn't know the proper way to act. You know, she's an heiress, yes. And her dad's like, get married. Basically, her dad's get married to somebody. But she doesn't understand. You just can't barge into a room and just say, hey, I'm available. You have to be sponsored. And so that's where their paths begin to collide. And that happens fairly early in the story. So you're not missing anything. We're not spoiling anything. But what's unique about Kate is that she has a wonderful relationship with her grandfather. But her grandfather, by the story begins, has passed away. Let's talk about that dynamic, though, because even though her dad didn't love her, her grandfather did. What did her grandfather give her that she takes with her?
Yeah, so, you know, while her grandfather, Pat, is basically her father figure, even mother figure, you know, because the mom also passed away. What he gives her is this sense of you can do anything you want. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a girl. You can do anything you want. And also because, you know, he's basically a single dad, right? He has no choice but to bring Kate to his work, which is he's an engineer in the coal mines of West Virginia. And so she learns all this engineering stuff from her grandfather. So like those are the two things that really, you know, shape her and form her in a way. And the legacy, this is like the true legacy her grandfather has left her.
And I love that aspect. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, I recently lost my grandmother in November 2021. And before we started recording, I had told Paulia just how I miss her. But she gave me stuff, and she gave me the gift of writing and reading. And I couldn't help but see that in Kate, how her grandfather gave her the gift of, being an engineer, learning how to work things, how to fix things, letting her be what she can be. He didn't let the fact that she was a girl dictate her future. And I thought about, hey, maybe you don't have a great relationship with your mom or your dad like Kate doesn't. However, but you do have people in your life that will pour into you. And I thought that was a really inspirational aspect of the story. So I love that dynamic. Now, I got to tell you, when Kate and Sebastian meet, oh my gosh, flames and sparks go off. And I love it because they meet in this garden party. I think it's a garden party or some kind of party within the garden. And so he meets her. She mistakes him for someone else. And he's instantly attracted to her because she's not like any of the other women there. They just want a title. And she just wants to be herself, when she's there. And so tell her, when he first meets Kate, how does that look for the whole story? Because it's a really fun part of the story.
Well, it's funny because when he sees her across the ballroom, he has this impression of her from what people around him are saying, that, oh, she's an heiress from America, one of these upstarts, and he's like, oh yeah, even though he's physically attracted to her, he's like, oh yeah, one of these dollar princesses, whatever, right? I have better things to do. But so he goes out into the garden, and then Kate also goes out into the garden. So we see the meeting from her point of view, which is like, oh, I'm just like getting some fresh air, and there's this guy. But I guess from his point of view, and he starts out, we don't see that his point of view of their first meeting, right? But yeah, so she has one of these moments where she says something aloud, and it's from Shakespeare. It's from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And in the 6th grade, my class and I had to perform Midsummer Night's Dream. That's why I know it by heart. So I wrote this. Yeah, I wrote this dialogue by heart because everybody had to know it. And if any of my high school classmates are listening to me now, they know it and they're gonna laugh. But yeah, so she starts off by quoting Shakespeare to him, right? So that's like immediately that's already made an impression on him. Like, oh, she reads, right? Like she's a blue stocking. And she's not, maybe she's not like the other girls. I hate to use that term, but yeah. So immediately, that was his impression of her.
Now there's a dynamic here because she has to choose between dukes here. And wouldn't we all like to have that kind of problem?
Yeah.
Right? We all would like to have. Like, I would love to have to choose between, Michael B. Jordan and Jason Momoa. Oh
Exactly.
my gosh. Decisions, you know what I'm saying? And so he's there. His mom is sponsoring them to make their way into society. And so, but there's another Duke there that it says, may the best Duke win. And when the other Duke comes into play, he's a nice guy. He's nice. He's not terribly horrible, but he's dull. He's absolutely dull. Like, even if I said, this man is boring, here she is, a steam engine engineer, and she needs someone to stimulate her, So yeah, there's a lot to this story that I'm not getting into, only because I do know that if I did, we will spoil a lot of it for you. It's just your opportunity. Just pick up your copy of May the Best Duke Win, available on harlequin.com, millsandboons.com, or wherever books are sold. Make sure you go ahead, pick it up. It's already gotten great reviews, and I'm just so excited to see where your career grows with Harlequin and with any other publisher you may be working with. But I do know there's more planned for this series. So tell us what else you got next.
Well, I guess I already have it in my Q&A, but so there is, along with Kate, another family is with them in England trying to find a husband for their daughters. So Kate's best friend, Maddie, who is iron heiress. She's from Pittsburgh. So this is a bit, my husband is from Pittsburgh. So I actually went there and learned all about the steel industry. And so she is next. She's quite unique. So the way Kate is a steam engineer, she actually works with her father in the iron forges. So I keep saying steel mills, but Steel actually came later. So it's the iron forges of Pittsburgh. And she's quite unique because she's also 6 feet tall. So there's that comes into it. So she meets a Scottish earl this time. And that's about all I can say without spoiling it too much.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. And one thing I liked about May the Best Duke Win is that she doesn't have a lot of friends because she is a different type of female in the story. However, you only need one if you think about it. And Maddie was the one for her. There's a scene in here, guys, I won't spoil it, where literally Sebastian makes your heart melt because he does something for her friend that I was like, you know what? I already liked you, but now I really like you, you know? And I gotta say, like, one of the things that happens in the book is the love scenes in this book. I was telling Paulia about it. They really do show how Kate and Sebastian's romance and relationship begin to change. And they're really good. I really enjoyed. They really just added a very nice, spicy dynamic to the story. And so I can't wait to see what you're going to do with Maddie's story, because you said a Scottish lord, I think you said, lord or earl, one of them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many clashes here. And like iron, I could just see iron and people banging on the iron, trying to maul it together. I just have so many ideas going through my head. So I can't wait to see how you treat those two there. But Paulia, thank you so much for being with me for this episode of Once Upon a Historical Romance. All of your information is below and the show links below here. So make sure you go ahead and just click on her links to know more about her. So Paulia, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And, Paulia was so gracious to be with her. Like I said, it's 8:00 her time. It's 8:00 my time, but 12 hours separate us. So yeah, but I'm glad to have her back. Can't wait to have her back for her next debut with Harlequin and her next book in this series. And I'm just excited to see where your career is going to go. And for our listeners out there, thank you for listening to this edition of Once Upon a Historical Romance.